Hello, and welcome to Broads and Books. I'm Erin.
And I'm Amy. And this is episode number 93. I'm Just a Girl.
No doubt.
No doubt.
Ugh. I was obsessed
name of the
with
band.
No Doubt. Yeah, that's the
Yes.
name of the band, yeah.
Yes. I mean, we were of the age to be obsessed with No Doubt.
Yes.
Also, I don't know if you ever saw Captain Marvel, which came out a couple of years ago. It features a prominent fight scene set to this song, which is ideal because she was the first female superhero to get her own movie.
Yes.
It was wonderful.
That's a great use of this song.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm obsessed with her.
Yeah.
I kind of still am, I have to admit it.
I don't like that. I mean, now we're getting into celebrity gossip, which is not the topic of this, but
Yeah.
still, Blake Shelton, come on.
I know. It's a weird...
Over Gavin Rossdale?
I know. That seems very odd to me.
I mean, maybe the youngsters don't understand who Gavin Rossdale was.
Yeah. I guess not. Maybe,
Because he was hotness personified.
Yeah, he really was. Yeah.
Ugh.
That shit is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S.
Oh, Erin, why'd you pick this song?
I just thought it was a great, rich theme for talking about.
Yes.
We could do it either way. Either females that were like the first in their field, coming out, being strong, or that were being stifled.
Yes.
Because they're female.
So much stifling.
Just a girl.
Just a girl in the world.
Yeah. Take that pink
That's
ribbon.
all that you'll have me be. I don't think that's the right words.
Oh, I think it was.
Something. Yeah.
I thought, it sounded right.
Thank you. Erin, I got a question for you.
Oh, gosh. All right.
So, thinking about you as a younger girl, a young girl, just a girl.
Just a girl
Just
in
a
the
girl
world.
in the world. What do you know now that you wish you knew back then? Just, I'm sure there's so many things, because there's so many things for me, but what's one thing?
That there's other females like you.
Yes.
Like they're not, the people that you're automatically surrounded with are not who, you don't have to stay there. It's okay to have boundaries and it's okay to let go some pressure because it's never going to change. Like there's always going to be pressure. So no matter how,
it just shifts, it morphs. Yeah.
No matter how hard you work to meet it, somebody else is waiting around the corner. So you might as well just get rid of it now. Like, no, I'm not that person and I don't care. And that's the beautiful thing is that we're all different and bring different things to the table. So fuck off.
That should have been the chorus of this song. It goes, fuck off.
Fuck right off.
That is a great point. Because I think, especially if you're a little uncomfortable as a young girl in school, you're not happy with the selection of friends that have been set before you. It'd be very nice to know that there's other people like you, other girls like you.
And don't you think it's interesting? Like I have found this phenomenon a lot. I'm not saying it's every case, but a lot of males, like they have their friends for their entire life. Like they find them in elementary or whatever, and they're great. It lasts forever. And it seems like more often than not, I hear female stories of like a friendship gone wrong or something terrible that happened. And you're like, why is that? Well, it's society setting it up to be that way, right?
Yeah.
We have to be in competition with each other always.
Yes. And I think on the other side too, deep male friendship is not prized. It's all just sort of superficial, you're not necessarily sharing all your hopes and dreams. And so, you can keep those friends for a long time because maybe they're not that important to you when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Whereas we're supposed to just bare our soul to other girls. And sometimes that doesn't work out so well.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, so imagine I'm in an all-girls high school graduating class. And Amy's there to give a speech. What are you telling this class? What are you telling these girls?
Well, first, I want to channel, you giving a speech to high schoolers when you said none of this shit matters. I mean, that's a great thing to, that was many, many episodes ago that you said that. That still stands. I think that's great advice.
Still stands, yep.
But I also think to women especially to say you don't have to go this alone. Like the world's going to tell you that you have to compete with every other girl. No. You can work together and you can take down a lot of this bullshit. And I ask you to remember the story that Erin shared where a young boy said that girls can't run as fast and you took it upon yourself to carry the cause of feminism on your own little shoulders. And you failed at that race.
I failed hard.
You failed the female race.
I'm not sure that we advanced feminism that day.
No. So if you had potentially banded with other girls.
Exactly.
You could have taken that little shit down.
If I had looked around and found an actual fast, or even just someone that regularly ran.
For sure.
That might have been a step in the right direction.
Right.
Then that race might have gone differently.
Exactly. So that's what I'm telling these girls is, you know, you don't have to go it alone.
No.
And in fact, it's better if you don't. It's way better if you don't.
It is better if you don't. Yeah. It doesn't
So
have
go
to be
out
a
there.
fight.
Don't focus on marriage and all that shit yet. Find your friends. Find your girls. Find your rides or
Yes.
dies.
Find your posse.
That's what's most important.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yes. I like that. See,
Thank
that's
you.
a speech that more people need to hear.
Along with none of this shit matters.
None of it.
None of it
Not
matters.
a bit of this matters. Don't know why you're crying. Doesn't matter.
And look under your chair because that's your student loan bill.
Yeah. And that doesn't matter either.
So, okay. There's a lot of norms that we girls supposedly have to follow just to get dressed every damn day. We gotta wear clothes that are stupidly uncomfortable. We have to put makeup on. We have to do our hair. We have to do all these things that guys don't have to do, honestly. I feel like when we're younger, that's way more important. Now that we're getting older, it's like, do we?
Yeah.
So are there norms that you used to conform to that you don't anymore?
Well, for sure, when I was more in like the corporate professional world on a regular, like
Yeah,
daily basis,
bet.
I definitely dressed up every day. I
Yeah.
mean, I was heels, skirt, like full hair, makeup. And I feel like if I was still in that world, I'd probably still do that because I don't know, you always come in as a female feeling like you're maybe a couple steps behind.
For sure. You feel like you have to show that front.
Yes,
to the
I
world.
have to
Yeah.
present that I'm uber professional and not someone to be messed with. But so obviously that's gone by the wayside. But I would say that one thing, and I'm trying to remember, so help me here.
Okay.
I don't remember us having anything like yoga pants or joggers when I
No.
was younger,
No,
right? It
not
was
at
like
all.
sweatpants.
It was sweatpants.
That's it.
Very forgiving sweatpants.
Yeah, but it wasn't a thing. Like people just didn't wear sweatpants around. Like
No.
if you went out, you put on jeans
You
or
put on
you put on
jeans.
pants. Or
Yes, there was no athleisure. There was
Yeah.
none of that stuff. Your go-to were jeans for sure.
And like I held firm to that through college. Like I
Yeah.
always wore jeans or some kind of pants. And now, I mean, I couldn't live without my joggers.
My God, I don't ever want to wear jeans.
No.
Jeans are terrible.
They are. And I would have thought if you had asked me, gosh, even if you had asked me maybe even 5 years ago, but I want to go a little farther than that. For sure, 10, I would have said I would never leave the house in that
Me
kind
too.
of thing.
Me too.
But now I'm like, why go to lots of
well, and I
functions
think
that
the
way.
pandemic has accelerated that.
That's true.
You
That
know.
is true. Yeah.
Although I did see something on social media the other day where it was someone saying like, listen, I'm seeing some of you ladies out there wearing bras. I thought we had an agreement.
Right?
We don't
Yeah.
need to do that
No,
anymore.
we don't need to do that
Put your
anymore.
joggers on.
Yes.
Put your leggings on.
Yes.
Don't put a bra on.
No bras. Getting back to it.
I feel bad for people who have to work in offices after this.
I know. It's rough.
And then have to put on that uniform again.
yeah. You have to get
It's
back
no
at
good.
it. Yeah. You would have asked me and I would have said, no, I would never go out even to the grocery store in
Yeah.
that. But
Yeah.
now I do my whole day in that.
And you know, part of that is getting older and just not giving a shit
No,
anymore.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Who am I impressing?
No,
No one.
no one.
No
Not
one.
myself. No one out in the world.
No one out in the world.
And I don't need to impress anybody.
No. And if you think that that's the place, I'm supposed to be impressing you while I'm buying groceries, you should take a look at my cart. Because my cart should tell you everything you need to know. Not enough produce and way too much fruit by the foot. Like,
Speaking of food, you shared a story about last week's yuck pie.
oh,
And
yeah.
I thought the listeners might want to hear.
a nice update on
yes,
the yuck
an
pie.
update on the yuck pie. Yes.
Turns out it is some sort of living organism that refused to be put down. I could not get that out of the pie tin thing. It was a glass pie. I soaked it, which
Did that just make it angry?
yeah, it absorbed the water. It felt like it was gathering weapons. I scraped and scraped and scraped, and I immediately threw the trash bag out. It was not even close to full, but I was like, I don't know if I should have this in the house.
No,
Like, I am
because it's
not
going to
sure.
take over. It's going to somehow.
All I could think of was you comparing it to the SNL Bake Off
Yes!
sketch and the evil creature that comes out of it,
Yes!
and that's what it felt like was happening.
It was
Like,
going to drag you to
talking
hell
me.
if you kept it in the
Yes.
house. Yeah.
I mean, we already saw that it could shapeshift here.
It really did. It was so disturbing. You did also say that there was more of that, more wetness as the night progressed.
Yeah.
That you were going to send a picture of to me and Heath, and then you spared us.
I did,
And
because I felt
appreciate
like
that.
it was close to dinner time, and that felt
Yeah,
rude.
nope.
I especially for Heath, who actually had to eat some.
Oh, yeah.
That felt like just really.
It's just an
angry.
attack.
Yeah. And I just I mean, if a text could give you indigestion, that one for sure.
For sure. Even the picture you shared on social media that showed the yuck pie, it gave me a sort of,
Yeah.
Yeah. It was not good.
It was.
Well,
it was real bad.
You showed commitment to your kitchenware, because I would have just thrown that thing out.
I would have too. And you know what? I don't even know why, but it was it's a glass. And here's what's weird about it. I kept thinking that's my favorite glass pie pan. And then I got to thinking, after I went through that whole rigmarole, I was walking upstairs and I thought, when the hell do I ever make pies? Why is that my favorite glass pie
You have
pan?
a favorite one?
Yeah, like what? Like I'm out here making frittatas and quiches and pies. Like that's not happening.
Wow. Maybe it was,
no sense.
you know, you really thought that you had to kill that thing before you could throw it
that's
out.
it, yeah.
If you had just left it in the tin, it would have, eaten up your grass or something.
It might have absorbed that glass
It
and been
might
able
have.
to use it as like a
Yes.
shooting out glass machine.
Yeah. Oh, man.
That was really saying a shooting out glass machine.
I knew what you meant.
Oh my gosh.
Well, thanks for the update. I
Yeah.
felt like our listeners needed to know that. Yeah.
Yeah. You're welcome. It
Yeah.
was an adventure.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were going to take over we were kind of talking about careers. If
Yes,
you were going to take
yes.
over a traditionally male-dominated field in anything, sports, career, etc., what would you do? Which would you take by the storm?
I would take over being a billionaire because it's all dudes. It's all white dudes.
That's the best answer ever.
Now, listen, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I won't create anything that will make billions. I just want to.
Oh, okay.
I just want to take the billions that they have
Okay.
and become a billionaire.
Okay.
And do it better because they are selfish with their billions.
I feel like that's pretty on point for a billionaire, actually.
And I'm fine with that.
I think you're already on brand.
Because once I get the billions, I'm going to do better. I'm going to help people. I'm going to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
that's
like
where I'm
that.
at. No real plan on how to do it, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to, from the very first episode, I think you said Jeff Bezos, you were coming for him.
Yeah.
Now I am too.
Yeah. Well, my minions have been at work because we all know he's stepping down as CEO. So.
And his wife split up and
Yeah.
has taken his money.
Took his money and said, "Hey, guess what, jerk?
See, that's
I'm
the
going
thing.
to donate money I fought for in the divorce. Guess what I'm going to do? Donate it. Oh, salt in the wound.
See, that's where I'm taking my inspiration. I want to be like her.
I like
want
it.
to take the billions, the gazillions.
The gazillions, jillions.
Yeah. And, do something good with it.
Yes.
Don't just buy a space shuttle.
Yeah.
And, and name your child something. Now I'm into Elon Musk
Yeah,
territory, by the way.
that's
I moved.
understandable.
Yeah,
though.
I
Yeah,
moved.
you can jump
Okay.
there. I
Yeah.
get it. I
Uh-huh.
get it. Yeah.
I'm just going to be better at it. That's all.
I agree. I think that's a great plan.
Thank you.
That was like the best answer. I couldn't do that. I like that. And
Well,
take
all the
over
other
being
ones, I
millionaires.
mean, I can't play sports.
No,
I mean, come
and
on
who
now.
wants to?
And who wants to play
Who
sports?
wants
No
to?
one wants to play games.
Wants to do that.
Gross.
No.
Yeah. And other jobs that males, no, gross.
Actually, we were discussing that in our household because, there's some uproar about the Olympics in Japan. Like there's some nervousness about whether it can go because they were kind of having a peak, all this stuff. And the news was talking about how disappointing that would be for some Olympic athletes. And Mike was kind of like, well, I mean, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, actually, from someone that doesn't play sports, the idea that you have worked that hard that many days, I would be sobbing.
I would be so annoyed.
I would be
like, I spent the
devastated.
last 4, 5, 10, 15 years of my life preparing for this.
They've been on, they're on strict nutrition plans.
Yes.
That's all they do is work
Yes.
out. Like, I remember I watched an expose on, I shouldn't say expose. It was like an in-depth following, is it Misty May Trainer?
Sounds right. Sure.
One of the volleyball players that is on the one that wins gold all the time.
Yeah.
It followed like a day in her life and she has like kids and I was like, this is not normal behavior.
No.
Like the things she eats, how much she had to work out, how much she had to practice. Like, yeah, that seems, great when you're winning a gold medal. Like, I want to be a volleyball gold medalist, but you don't.
No.
It seemed awful.
No, I think you're right. I think I'd be devastated if all that work and all that sacrifice, so much sacrifice
Yes.
to your daily nutrition.
Yeah. And you're waiting, conceivably 4 years for the next Olympics that you're going to be in. And for some of them, that age puts them in a bad
that's
spot.
not going to happen. So this is it. Yeah.
This is the way they make money because they're on Olympic teams. So they get a salary for that in order to,
Whew. Aaron, I'm glad we're not Olympic athletes.
I have never been more glad I'm not an Olympic. There's one thing I go to bed at night and I think, God, I'm glad I'm not an Olympic athlete. And also, I have a lot of stairs in my house. Why did we buy this house?
We had so many chances to be Olympic athletes, and we just said
we
no.
We did.
Like,
there were so
listen,
many circuits
no.
that I was on that they were like, hey. And I was like, hey.
Listen, I'm just not, I know I'm good enough, but.
Yeah, I would like to. I want to tell you yes in this moment, but let's be honest.
Yeah. Oh, sports.
I love some Reese's Pieces, and I don't think that's allowed. I also like just sitting on the couch.
I like to sit. That's my favorite activity. So if you got a sitting category,
I like TV.
I like TV.
I feel like I'm not going to have time. I feel like your training regimen is going to interfere.
It's going to cut into my binge watching.
Yes.
I wouldn't have been able to watch Mayor of Easttown.
In the amount of days that we did?
Exactly.
No. I'd be watching it in 10 years being like, oh, I missed everything.
See? Yeah. Oh, man. Remember how we talked about Mike had just discovered Lost like 10 years later? That would be like Olympic athletes. They'd be constantly like, oh, did you guys see this show? It's called Lost.
Yeah.
I'd be like, yeah, that aired 15 years ago.
Yeah. That was the best part about Mike going around saying that was the follow-up of people being like,
it's not
like
new?
They didn't want to seem dumb. Like, is there a reboot I didn't know about? And then they're like, what, you mean the old one? And he's like, well, I don't know which one it is, but it's Lost. Because Mike has no clue.
Oh, Mike.
God.
Sweet Mike. Oh, boy. Should we move into our picks?
Fiction picks.
I'm so psyched to tell you about my fiction pick.
Oh, I can't wait.
This is a hot off the press. I finished it in like 2 hot days. It was... I don't know why the days were hot.
It's got hot here. That's fair.
It's hot in here. That's what I'm thinking about. Yeah. It is a novel. It's called We Are Watching Eliza Bright by A.E. Osworth.
Okay.
Like I said, just came out in April, I believe. And hot damn, this book. This was another library to book purchase. So got it at the library, read it real fast. And I was like, I need it in my hot little hands.
I need my own copy.
Yes. So Eliza Bright is a video game coder. And she works at Fancy Dog Games, which has this huge, very intense following. And she's the first woman that's promoted to code.
Oh, boy.
On their top game. And on her very first weekend, she, like we were saying, like she's working harder and faster. She knows this is a chance of a lifetime. So all weekend, it's an all weekend work marathon where she's trying to develop this code for this new patch for the game. And I'm using words I don't really understand, but you know what I mean.
There.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
there. She's got patches. She's got codes. I'm in.
So after, she shows up on Monday, she's real pleased with herself. She's like, I'm starting off great. She finds that her code has been messed with. And she's confused. She's kind of pissed. So she asks about it, and then she kind of follows up on it. She reports it, and then shit just starts escalating. Until she is facing down this entire company, pretty much of men, and the culture of men, and at least one of her coworkers who calls her a feminazi whore. In the office, by the way. Who they all of them pretty much say that she has no business in gaming. So at this point, the story goes viral. So it's out in the world. She is fired. Then she is doxxed, in which her employee file with all of her personal information is posted online. So she has now enraged not just her company, but this group of male gamers out in the world, right? And all these forums like Reddit and on Twitter and everybody is out to get Eliza Bright. They think that she has slept her way to the top because how else could she get up there? They think that she's destroying the sanctity of game culture. And they also sort of want to fuck her. So there's that. Yeah.
So is this kind of based on Gamergate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was like, this sounds
exactly.
very...
And it's set around the same time, like late 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's, and get this. So the male gamers, this group of, enraged people out in the world, they're the ones narrating this. So it's this sort of collective we that is narrating the story.
Oh my gosh.
As they stalk her around New York City. And there's one super fan in particular who makes his threats very, very public on Twitter to exact revenge on behalf of men.
Oh no.
But okay, so there's this collective we that's this voice, which you can kind of tell like what this voice would be. I mean, just picture,
Right.
yeah, okay. But then there's another narrator voice, which is this group that Eliza finds, and it's this secret collective of women and non-binary gamers called the Sixterhood. And they take over narrating for part of it. So the book is, there's like a chase. It's this powder keg of culture stuff. It is so damn propulsive and it's so well written. I love it so much. And so, like you said, it's sort of based on Gamergate. And this feels like it could have been a true story of one of the gamers that we heard about, you know, that was being doxxed and being threatened and being, you know, getting rape threats, death threats, all of those things.
Yes.
All because Eliza has the audacity to be a woman who plays video games.
How dare you?
A woman in the industry, a woman on the internet. So I think we've got a woman and a group of women that are being stifled, but also with the appearance of this collective of other gamers, these women and non-binary gamers, we've got some major fuck you empowerment too, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So I think as you read this, you're going to cringe. You're going to cheer. You will say, of course, so many times at different developments. And I love that this is about games. And I think for those of us who don't really play games, it sort of seems silly. And they even talk about this in the book that, you know, it may seem silly, but this is about much more than just games. This is about culture.
Yeah.
This is about a culture war. And it's shown in many ways, like who we are and what we're believing right now.
Yeah.
So I think you're going to love this because of the interesting structure, the different narrators. There's lots of like text exchanges and different formats, and you know you're a sucker for that.
I am.
I love this so much. I'm now following A.E. Osworth all over the place, but in a non-stalker way.
Okay.
I'm just very
Just like
interested in them.
okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And an incredible voice. And yeah, I think you all need to read this immediately.
Wow. That
And
sounds
you know,
great.
it's so great too that like, of course there'd be a novel about Gamergate. And I'm so glad that this is the one.
Yeah.
You know, because the way that the author, the way they do this is just so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's such
Agreed.
a great ride.
Yeah. I think that's awesome that there is one. Yeah, for sure. Well, this book this week that I brought is called Mother, Daughter, Widow, Wife by Robin Wasserman. It was published in July of 2020. And this novel opens up, we meet Wendy Doe. She's shown up in a hospital and has absolutely no memory of who she is or what her life was previously. They can't figure out, she's not presenting with any particular head trauma or any real trauma necessarily. She's awake and she's verbal. I mean, she speaks all of those things, but she just has no idea who she is. And she was at the hospital, no identification, nothing. So they diagnose her with dissociative, wow, that was hard to say, dissociative fugue, which they say could go away on its own or could be here to stay.
Good Lord.
Right.
That's not helpful.
No. And as she's moving forward now in her life, she has memory now. Like she knows what happened yesterday.
So she can create new memories.
Yeah, she can create new memories and she's moving forward. But as this is all happening, she meets Dr. Benjamin Strauss, who's like the leading brain and memory researcher at the time. And he hears about Wendy Doe and says, you need to become a patient at my Meadowlark Institute, which is like his brainchild, his research facility. And she's like, okay, because what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
I got nothing else to do. So as she arrives, this corresponds to the arrival of this really talented young scientist who's kind of looking to figure out what her project, what her name in the field is going to be. But Dr. Benjamin Strauss is the guy you want to work for. And he only accepts 3 fellows every year or every cycle. And she, by some luck, gets in because her experiment that she was supposed to get in on actually failed at the last minute. So she's feeling very vulnerable and very nervous and really ready to prove herself.
Oh, gosh.
And right away, Benjamin Strauss takes a liking to Lizzie and is like, this is your pet project. You're going to work with Wendy Doe. We're going to figure out what's going on here. So immediately she spends all this time with Wendy, talking to Wendy. Wendy has all these interesting things to say. kind of like that great fuck you attitude about everything. No, that doesn't matter. Has this really great sense of self for really not knowing anything about her past life. And Lizzie's just kind of tasked with doing whatever she wants to do. They take her into town to buy clothes. She has smoke breaks. She's just there and she's recording everything. So just as you're getting into that, you fast forward into the future.
Oh.
And we find out that Wendy Doe's daughter is on the doorstep of Lizzie asking her to help her piece together what went on with her mother.
Oh.
Yeah. And from there, we backtrack the story of Lizzie and Ben, of what happens between them, of what happened with Wendy Doe, and what happened really at the Meadowlark Institute.
Oh, my gosh.
And we kind of learn right away that Dr. Strauss really squandered Lizzie's talent. He really ruined things by making her pick between her work and him.
Of course he did.
Yeah. And so she didn't really ever fulfill what she wanted to. And the whole story, there's so much more that happens after that. So I didn't ruin anything. No spoiler alerts there. It truly, from there, you can't picture where it's going to go. And I was trying to think about how I felt about this book because it was propulsive, but not in the same way that I say that about true crime sometimes, or like a mystery where you're like, I got to figure out what's going on. It wasn't like that. It was just this really raw, vulnerable writing because you're encountering different women in the whole book at different points in their life, and they're all being stifled in some way. We've got the mother, Wendy Doe. We've got the daughter looking for her. We've got this widow. We have someone that's a wife. And there's just this very raw energy in the whole book about parts of them that don't feel fulfilled and how they're trying to figure out either how to do that before it's too late or make peace with the fact that they didn't do it. And the plot itself isn't necessarily, that quick or that thick, but just the thoughts and the thing, even some of the stuff Wendy Doe says, I was like, oh my gosh, I would have to take a break and just let it soak in. Wow. It's really well written. It's really interesting story. It's very gripping. And I will say very emotional. I felt very emotional throughout that book at different points. And I think it's because there's so many well-written female characters in this book that you're bound to feel connection to someone. You're bound to see yourself somewhere. I fell in so hard because, as you mentioned, I'm a little bit of a sucker for different styles. We've got some journal entries from Wendy interspersed throughout. We've got different narrators in different chapters. It was so good. It's a great story too. There's some great stuff that happens, but it was just a really interesting look at women at all different points and making all kinds of different decisions and the weight of those, which I think is unique in a lot of ways to women.
Absolutely. And I think that what you just said about being emotional because these are well-written women characters, I get that a lot where suddenly I'm watching something or I'm reading something and it just feels so real, which feels rare, and maybe that's why it is so emotional. Yes, finally someone got it kind of thing,
I love the idea that multiple things can be true at once. So someone can be great and flawed. Someone can really want this over here, but also really want this. Yeah. And there's a lot of that in this book. I really want this relationship, but I also want to have a career. So.
And why do I have to choose? Because that seems like something we as women are forced to do. Yeah. Yeah. I also like that it's named Meadowlark because that made me immediately think of a cult. Yeah. Or a wellness company, which are kind of the same things.
Yeah. And it almost has that a little bit. It has, Dr. Strauss in this book has this untouchable quality. No one's questioning him, of course, because he's successful and he's done this whole thing. And, maybe some people should have been questioning him. So it's a doozy.
And that feels like both cults and wellness programs seem to be very on theme too, because they promise female empowerment, and it's really just stifling them and straight up murdering them sometimes.
Straight up murder, murder,
which is stifling them. That's a major stifling.
That's a permanent stifle. It's hard to come back from.
Permanent Stifle. That sounds like a band name right there.
Oh, it does.
It does.
That sounds like a great punk rock band. Permanent Stifle.
Yeah. Or it's a great name for a true crime book because it's just another way of saying murder. How many headlines how many titles
It
can you have with
also
murder?
sounds like a good bar name.
Oh man, it does.
Like a hidden bar. Like you have to go through a couple different doors to get
like
there.
a speakeasy.
Yeah. Speakeasy. Whenever someone says speakeasy, I go right to flapper dresses and Great Gatsby. Which
You kind of did a little shimmy
I
thing,
did.
like you were wearing a flapper
a
dress.
speakeasy. I don't know why I have to talk like
It
that.
suddenly sounded like Lauren Bacall. So there you go.
Wow.
That was transportive right there. You just took us
glad.
away.
I'm glad
to a
to-
speakeasy.
Called Permanent Stifle. Coming to a strip mall near you.
Oh, so for other genre book, got another book I'm excited about. It's called Sarah Land by Sam Cohen. And this is a short story collection that came out earlier this year. And as the title may indicate, it is all about people named Sarah. There's straight Sarahs, there's queer Sarahs, there's gender nonconforming and non-binary Sarahs. We got Sarahs all over the place.
Yes.
So we've got a Jewish Sarah in college who is surrounded by a group of Sarahs. It's kind of like the Heathers, okay? And she's feeling like she's sort of just passively following along as they all declare a MIS, Masters of Information Science major, and as they all date these dudes, and it's just sort of, yep, this is life kind of thing.
Oh.
There's a Sarah who gets into sex work, particularly playing dead for a wealthy man who's really into necrophilia. There's a Sarah who writes fan fiction to work through her own romantic obsessions. And there's a Sarah who, with her partner, decides to become a tree. Just growing as a tree. Saying, I'm done with life. I'm just going to grow in the backyard.
I kind of like it.
Yeah. And then my favorite is Sarah from the Bible, or Sarai, Sari, who was wedded to Abraham, and she was barren. Because there is no really gender here, though, in this story, Sarah's not understanding she's a trans figure, and she isn't producing babies because that's not how her body works.
Oh.
So they bring in Hagar, and Sarai and Hagar develop a relationship, except it's the Bible, so patriarchy has to take over.
Yeah.
So things go from there.
Oh my gosh.
It's so great. So super unique, super
Yeah.
engaging stories. I really love all of these in the different directions, and the fact that they're all linked by this idea of them all being Sarahs.
Yeah, that's genius.
And I chose it for this theme because I think across all of these stories, the people named Sarah are coming up against rules. They're coming up against the expectations for women, all the rules around heteronormativity, the expectations and rules set by their friends or their partners. And all of these Sarahs, in some way or another, either wish to or try to explode these rules, and even maybe what it means to be a woman across these stories. So you're never just a girl. There's so much baked in, and I think you would like this. Again,
Yeah.
lots of different structures, lots of different takes on
Love
things.
that.
It's a terrific collection. It's the
Sounds
best kind
great.
of thing when there's some sort of connection across them that you can really, specify, and they all sort of work together.
Yeah.
And that Bible one stuck with me. I loved that idea.
That's such a great
Yeah.
premise too. Like it's so the idea that they're all Sarahs. It's sort of simple in a way, but yet you've never seen that, and
Never
it's
seen it.
genius.
I know.
All right. Well, this book for my nonfiction pick.
Oh,
this
boy,
week,
you're
or
making a
other
face.
genre. Yeah, it's a doozy.
Oh,
let me tell you.
okay.
It's a doozy. It's called Empire of Pain: The Secret History of the
Oh,
Sackler
shit.
Dynasty by
I
Patrick Radden Keefe.
heard him talk about this. This sounds intense.
It is intense.
Okay.
It is intense. It was just published in April 2021. And let me just say from the jump, before I even talk about the story, that you had recommended his Say Nothing book.
Yes.
His writing style, his dedication to this story, the amount of research that took, he was threatened throughout this story.
I bet.
The amount of time and energy and the genius way that he set this up, that went about, fact checking everything, is the only way that this story got out. And he says at the end, that he doesn't want this to be the end of, this isn't the end of where this story should end in terms of the last thing that's written about this. But he does say that he hopes it's used as a launching pad for other things. And what we're talking about is the opioid crisis.
Yep.
So we're talking about the Sackler family, who, if you've never heard of them, it's going to blow your mind because they single-handedly invented OxyContin and are single-handedly responsible for it being the crisis that it is. And the family itself is... So this is kind of a deep dive into their family from the beginning all the way to present day. So you have 3 brothers that made it up: Arthur, Raymond, and Mortimer. And they all
Mortimer.
became Mortimer, right?
What a name.
I know. Mortimer.
Mortimer.
They all became doctors. They all had children, grandchildren, and everyone in their circle has lived life off of Purdue Pharma, company that eventually produced OxyContin. But it really all stems from Arthur. He's the oldest, and he kind of always took Raymond and Mortimer under his wing. Like, he was always kind of responsible for them. So he's really the patriarch that set this whole entire thing in motion. Kind of his values are what formed that family. His ideas about how to hide things, like even when clear back when it started with him, he was doing things like editing medical journals, but putting the ads in or saying this was the thing that should be used, knowing that doctors would see that. He had interest in companies that competed with other companies. So like no matter who came out on top, he was winning. He had this very strong interest in art. So he became an art collector, spent a godforeseen amount of money collecting really rare pieces, and then convinced places to give him like special viewing rooms that he had access to, and he would throw parties there. So it gave him this air right away, like if the Met has your stuff, you must be a decent
bad
guy.
dude. Yeah.
And it partially came out of a true love of art, but then that name has filtered from there. Like there are still places that have his name on the exhibits because,
oh my God.
Yeah, it's insane. The tentacles of this thing, I mean, octopus doesn't even cut it. Like, it's unbelievable. And I truly don't think I knew the Sackler name. Like,
not until like maybe a couple of years ago when it started coming out, or maybe even this year. I don't know, but to
recognize the name and automatically tie it with that. Yes. I don't think that I had done that. And the book itself is fascinating because it tells the background of all of their family, but it also talks about the background of OxyContin and about the rise of it. And there are some crazy facts in there, like the fact that one of the side effects of withdrawal from it, which can happen within hours of not taking one, is body pain, like back pain. So these people that were taking it were thinking, oh, I'm not taking enough. My back hurts. So they would take more, not realizing that one of the symptoms of withdrawal of the medicine is that. I mean, there were so many things like that were just mind blowing.
So designed to be addictive in that way.
This literally got to market in the shadiest way I've ever heard. And I can tell you right now, the Sackler family is disgusting, but you know who else is? The FDA. Because the Sackler family knew that the FDA was going to be instituting a new rule where you couldn't take something. There was a product that was similar to this that was on the market overseas. The Sackler family knew that the FDA was about to pass a law where you couldn't like take that and start fresh. Like if it was passed there, you couldn't say, okay, we have this good model, we'll just add to it and see ours should already pass. There was like this weird loophole, and they slid in before that happened on purpose, knowing, and the FDA tried to make them go back to the beginning, but there were so many doctors that were already prescribing it and said, my patient can't not have this. So the FDA said, fine, we'll let it slide. So none of the information that was told to doctors, none of that is really true. Like the testing, what they did on testing the abuse of it. And what you have throughout the book is this family who just doubled down and said, no, if it's getting abused, it's because the person's making bad choices, has nothing to do with the drug. And that lineage has gone from the top all the way down to the bottom. Like everybody in the family basically believes that.
And that philosophy has made its way out into the world too, where we're all just blaming like, oh, they're a bunch of addicts. Like, oh, like, there's nothing really.
And they don't want to be. And somehow magically, we've heard a lot of lawsuits and things that have come because of opioids, even cities suing because they've, have so much devastation. And they've always somehow managed to keep the Sackler name out of it. They never had been personally sued before. So this book reminded me, I shouldn't say the book, the story reminded me a lot of Elizabeth Holmes' Theranos, where you're sort of like, okay.
Did they mean to do it?
Yeah, you're left with that. But then that's what's so brilliant about this book. And it was the same with Bad Blood, where you get through it and you're like, well, there's no way they didn't know. There's just no way. And there's proof. I mean, he did the work. Like he got, all kinds of things that were, what do I want to say? Right of Information Acts. That's not the right.
FOIA?
Yeah. he did so much work to get all of this information, and it's beautifully compiled. It's very accessible. It's maddening. It's frustrating. But it kind of left me thinking a lot about some of the stuff that's been going on over the last year. And to me, one of the central questions is, if you're raised your whole life to believe a certain thing, how do we divide responsibility between the individual who should grow and learn more and the people that are responsible for that thought process?
That's so relevant to everything we're hearing about just the way our world works, the way our country works. It's absolutely true.
Yeah. There's a lot in here about politics that are going to take you off. So I picked for this theme. I know this seems kind of outside, but I picked it because there's a lot of really fascinating female characters in the Sackler family that are stifled. Arthur himself had 3 different wives, and one of them was a very prominent scientist who knew her stuff, and he just wrecked her.
Oh, no.
Just destroyed her. And it sort of felt like that even with the female. I mean, they all still, toe the party line.
Sure.
But they all sort of feel like there's not a lot of attention given there. They're not making a lot of decisions. And it felt like a lot in the story, there were women in positions that could have been very important and stopped it and were either ignored or were shut down. And you have to give credit to one of the attorney generals who was a female who fought this and fought this and fought this and did not give up until she got the Sacklers named in a suit. And probably to much peril, I have to imagine.
I bet.
He doesn't specifically mention it. He mentions kind of some threats he got personally. So I have to imagine someone on the legal side of it did as well. And so for that reason, I kind of think that it was an interesting story to go, okay, here's this huge opioid crisis, and what's really missing is empathy. And what's also missing is a lot of female characters. And how can you not relate those two things?
Oh my God. What a good point.
Like, they kind of go together.
Yeah. I love his writing. I love the fact that he just goes there, like in Say Nothing, the fact that he works his way to finding who he thinks did this murder. And here, like, going up against a corporation like that in this family, it must have been, you're right that the pressure must have just been phenomenal.
It's insane. And he starts so early in Arthur's life and guns all the way to the present and does it in a way that doesn't feel overwhelming or like, oh my gosh, I can't learn anymore. I mean, you want to understand the lineage and understand where we're at and how much people have been lied to.
I hate so much too that he sounds like he's sort of a figure like Robert Murdoch, where it's one person that has this outsized influence on the culture and on the world, and of course washing his hands of everything. And again, I say I could do a better job as a billionaire.
Exactly. It relates
I
perfectly
could do so much
to what
better.
You said. It relates perfectly.
I want to take the Sacklers, what is it?
Sackler.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I want to take their billions.
You should.
I want to take all the opioids.
Yes.
Burn them up.
Get
Let
'em
the yuck pie eat them all.
Yes.
And
God, can you imagine the yuck pie absorbing all that? What would it be? I don't even know.
It would be our first supervillain.
That's
what
a
it would
true
be.
pill mill right there.
Yeah, that's not good. That wasn't a good idea. But you see what I mean.
I know. Yeah. Something that we would feel okay destroying.
Because these billionaires, man, they got to go.
Yeah. It's rough.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
It sounds really good. Like I said, I heard him talk about it on a podcast, and he's so just sort of like I think he's very aware of his skill as an investigative reporter and a writer, but he's also like, it was really intense. Like he was just talking about like, it was wild kind of thing.
So good. It's so good. It's an investment. It's like over 500 pages.
Yeah. Well,
but it has to be.
It has to be.
Yeah, it has to be.
For sure. Well, for pop culture, I've got a little lighter fare for us. A little bit.
Okay.
A little bit.
Okay.
I told you about this movie. This is a movie film on Netflix.
Another cinematic feature. Okay.
It's called Moxie.
Oh, yes.
This came out earlier this year. It is directed by Amy Poehler. Another good Amy right there.
That is another good Amy.
So this is about Vivian, who is a teenager, and she's kind of shy. She just goes along to get along. She's smart, she's just trying to kind of get through high school. Her mom is Amy Poehler, And Amy Poehler, I forget her character's name because I did not write it down. I'm just
all
going to
right.
call her Amy Poehler.
I'd like that.
You got
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Yeah.
She makes no bones about her past, which was full of rabble-rousing teenage rebellion.
Nice.
In fact, she was an original riot girl.
Oh.
You see where I'm going, and you see why I liked this.
Yeah, I see the connection
yep,
right
yep,
away.
Yep.
See how you got Amy on the hook.
I mean, Then one day at school, a new girl comes in, and her name's Lucy, and she's super confident she will not take any shit from any of the stupid dude bros that are all around. And inspired by Lucy, Vivian starts seeing all sorts of ways that sexism is dominating the school. Like simple things like how a girl is wearing a tank top and she has a large chest. So she is told to cover up because it's being immodest and it's making the boys distracted. All that basic shit. Just shaming her and her body. Or there's more complex things like girls that are raped and then called sluts. So one day she finds her mom's old boxes of Riot Girl stuff filled with zines, filled with music, feminism that says fuck all to the sexist rules for girls, and pissed off one night, she creates her own zine, and it's called Moxie. And she drops it off anonymously in the bathroom at school, and it spreads. And pretty soon, there is a movement on her hands. No one knows Vivian's writing it. Everyone's super psyched about it. There's a whole secret code system where they're drawing stars on their hands to show that they're supporting this, and all the girls are getting together, banding together, becoming friends. So I chose it for this theme because of everything.
Yeah.
Because these girls are being stifled.
Yeah,
because
they
we're
are.
still dealing with the same shit that we were when we were teenagers. And we've got these girls also seeing that stifling and finding a way to empower themselves.
Yeah.
Mostly by looking to the past, but also by looking to each other.
Yeah.
I loved this so much. And not just because there are several Bikini Girl songs, and even a band of teenagers covering Rebel Girl from Bikini Kill. And that band is called the Lindas.
Well.
That's enough to appeal to this old heart of mine. But also just watching women and watching young women in particular come into their own and band together. That part about like realizing we're not all competition, realizing that we're all sort of going through the same shit and that maybe we can help each other.
Yeah.
It's a really inspiring thing. It's of course there's, blocks along the way, roadblocks along the way, but it's a very satisfying story.
Wow.
And Amy Poehler
Sounds great.
playing an older punk, and I love it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it too. Well, I'm going to take us back to Depressionville.
Oh boy.
So my nonfiction pick this week was kind of a 2-for-1 because this relates. My pop culture pick. It's called Crime of the Century.
Oh boy.
It's on HBO. It's a 2-part documentary, and this is by Alex Gibney, who he did The Inventor, the Theranos story, and he did Going Clear, the Scientology story.
That's where I know the name.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this explores the origins and continued rise of the opioid epidemic.
Oh boy.
And Patrick Radden Keefe is in it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he gives some information. He's interviewed. So, and it does explore the Sacklers, but it also explores politicians, different roles. What I found interesting and why I think you need both is that Patrick Radden Keefe's book is really Sacklers and the actual honest rise of it. It tells you about the other players that kind of helped, but that's not really the focus of the story. This one is sort of like a comprehensive overview that shows how politicians helped this happen, how the FDA helped this happen.
Oh boy.
And what I found very interesting was the culture inside Purdue Pharma to sell this product. Because a big part of this was getting this in doctors' hands and convincing them that this was the way to go. So they have a guy who is like their top seller that's turned and is working. And some of the stuff that you're going to see, they have actual videos from sales meetings. It's going to blow your mind. And it's 2 parts. I want to say each part's around an hour and a half or 2 hours. It's worth it. And I actually think watch that first
before reading it. Okay.
Yeah, because it gives a lot of great background information. It gives you a great idea of where we are now and why people are fighting so hard to get it to stop. It does a lot of interviews with people, and it's really accessible. And then I think you're really going to crave that deep dive into the Sacklers. But it's the same thing here. You've got a bunch of sales reps who realize, oh, I got to get a bunch of ladies in tight skirts to get them in front of these doctors. I got to. Of
course.
Yeah, it's so interesting, the culture that surrounds this problem, and I think you really see that played out well on the screen here. You see they show real footage of politicians fighting laws live on the Senate floor about why we shouldn't pass certain things that would help this so much, and then it shows how much they got in campaign contributions. Yeah, it's really well done, and it's really interesting. Like I said, it's great to see Patrick Radden Keefe in it. It's a great intro. I mean, you're going to really do a deep dive into the Sacklers, but I think it's worth it. I really do. I mean, if we're talking about true crime, which we do a lot.
Yes, we do.
And I know there isn't like some straight across murders in here, but this is
There's a lot of death.
There is a lot of death. And as far as a crime,
this is huge. This is organized crime.
yes. And that's what's so interesting about this. And that's why it's called Crime of the Century, because no one looks at it as a crime.
Right.
They look at it as this corporation that a product and these people misused it. No. There's a very interesting component here that these people knew. There's responsibility, which makes it a crime.
I love that it's getting into that idea because it feels like that's such a huge lie told by corporations and politicians that everything that goes wrong with their products, everything that goes wrong with our laws are personal responsibility.
Yeah.
That you as a person are a failure. And that's why you're addicted to those drugs. That's why you can't make any money. That's why you can't, make it in this fucked up world.
Yeah.
And to know that the Sacklers know that
there's so
did
much
it on
evidence.
purpose.
Yeah, they knew exactly what was happening. They know everything that they put in place they knew wasn't going to work. I mean, at one point they had convinced the FDA that putting the red, like the coating on it, that's supposed to make it extended release was like that prevented abuse. And pharmacists said immediately after that came out, they saw people coming in with like red stuff on their shirts. Like they were just wiping off the pills, or licking it off and then taking it.
Oh my God.
And they knew that. Like they had to know that if you did any kind of testing on that drug. Also, you get to see some depositions from the Sackler family because a few times they were successful in getting them to sit down, and it'll make you want to punch someone because the way that they're so like cavalier, and I don't know, I guess like one of them answers a bunch of, I think it's Richard, a bunch of times like, well, if that's what it says, oh yeah, I guess if you counted, that's how many companies I own. Like, infuriating. Totally infuriating. It makes my heart just goes out to everyone who's lost someone in that and is trying to fight this battle, and watching people be so callous is got to be gut wrenching.
And to be then blamed for it somehow.
Yes. Yeah,
that you're at fault, not the corporation.
Yeah. Your
that's
loved
just
one
capitalism.
is somehow had a deficit, and that's why this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're just great business owners who found out a way to have money, and you abused it.
And, they make a direct correlation between, the opioid crisis now getting us to where we're at with the heroin crisis again, because that's the next thing. Like once
for sure.
When it gets controlled, then that became like the most like it. And then that became the alternative that was easier to find. And this is not a thing where it's like one walk of life or one, it doesn't discriminate. It's everyone. It's people that were getting put on this because legitimately of pain. And what's so interesting, I forgot this, the most interesting part to me was that when the drug was developed overseas, it was developed by a nun who ran a hospice. Well, she had the idea. She ran a hospice for cancer patients. And she said, hey, you know what we really need is a way to give them morphine at home without an IV so that they don't have to come to the hospital every time they're at end of life. We're just trying to make them comfortable. They're not getting medical treatments, but they're having to take hospital space to get the pain relief. We need something that can do that in between, that I could administer at hospice or they could administer at home. And so she had met with scientists and said, hey, do you have ideas for this? And they were like, oh yeah. And so it came out of this place of helping a very particular population where, in that case, you wouldn't necessarily study abuse or addiction, because it doesn't matter at that point. You're using it for a very limited amount of time for a very specific purpose. That's what it was only supposed to be.
Also, way to take a woman's idea and fucking just destroy it.
Ruin it. And, I'm sure, I don't think she's alive anymore, but I'm sure she doesn't want to take credit now. But,
No.
stifle away. I don't want credit for that one.
I shall remain nameless, and that is fine.
Yeah, exactly. Child of God. I'm a nun.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
What a mess.
Mm-hmm. There's just, there's so many times in there that you're just going to think,
Way to take us to depression land again.
Yeah, sorry. I took you right back there.
Let's go back to Moxie.
Yeah.
Did I tell you there's an exclamation point at the end of the name?
And it's got an awesome scene. So when you're feeling really strung out and sad about society.
I mean, my first pick was not a cheerful pick. It was about dudes threatening to rape
Doxing,
and kill a girl for, playing games. So
Yeah.
that's the world. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
So we're just two girls in the world.
In the world.
Bringing you books. Bringing you depressing books. Bringing you fun books.
Just taking that pink ribbon off your eyes. The good news is that we're going to be back next Wednesday.
Yeah, we are.
And in the meantime,
Happy reading.